Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make a vegetable and cheese tart in puff pastry. So this is going to be Mediterranean vegetables with some sort of Greek style cheese and some Gruyere cheese, and it's going to be on a sheet of puff pastry. I'm taking this from a recipe that I saw from Tom Kerridge on the BBC Food website, but I'm adjusting it slightly because I'm using more ingredients, basically more vegetables, and I'm adding Gruyere cheese into it. So I go on to the ingredients, and for this I have one sheet of puff pastry which is shop bought, and I've just laid that out on a baking tray, and I've actually got it on its parchment paper but with some aluminium foil as well, because as the pastry bakes I'm going to fold the foil over to protect the edges just a little bit. And what I've done is I've scored a line, not going all the way through, but scored a line around the edge of the pastry between 1 and 2 centimeters in from the edge. So that's the pastry, and I'm going to prick that all over inside the lines that I've scored, so that when I bake this the pastry will not rise so much in the centre, because I'm going to flatten it later anyway. And then for the other ingredients I have some bell peppers, and I have a mixture of yellow, red and orange. That's just what came in the packet, and there's about 250 grams of that, which is 9.5 to 10 ounces. And I also have about the same amount of courgette, which I have cut into pieces, and the same amount of red onion, which I have just chopped into chunks. I also have some cherry tomatoes, and I'm not being prescriptive about how much, because there may be more here than I actually need, but then that's fine, because I will be using it for other things as well if there's excess left over. So the cherry tomatoes will go on the top later. And then I have 60 grams, or 60 to 65 grams, 2.5 ounces of Gruyere cheese, which I have grated, and 120 grams, which is about 4.25 grams of a Greek cheese similar to feta, which I've cut into cubes, but you can crumble it. I have about a tablespoon of fresh rosemary, which I've chopped up, and a tablespoon of fresh thyme, which I've chopped up, and about 2 tablespoons of garlic, which I have chopped. Then I'm going to use some salt and pepper. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is to put this pastry in the fridge and chill it for 1 hour. And then as that hour comes to an end, I'm going to preheat my oven to 240 degrees Celsius, 220 Celsius with a fan, 460 Fahrenheit, and that will then be ready to bake the pastry and the vegetables. But I'll come back when the pastry has chilled for about an hour. We'll assemble the vegetables into another baking tray and we'll bake everything. So it's been an hour and my pastry has been in the fridge, and I should have mentioned that I'm using a little drop of milk as well, and I'm going to brush some milk over the pastry. And then I'm also going to just sprinkle a little bit of salt on it as well. So I'll just set that to one side for a moment. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything from the vegetables except for the tomatoes and put those into a large bowl. And then I'm going to add in the garlic, the rosemary and the thyme. And I'm just going to toss those around to get the herbs and the garlic mixed in. And then I'm going to take another baking tray, which I have lined with some parchment paper, and I'm going to pour those vegetables onto the tray. Just like that. And then I'll just spread them around. And as I mentioned, this may be more vegetables than I need for my tart, but once they're roasted, I can eat them and put them in anything I want, basically. So with the vegetables spread over like that, I'm simply going to spray some olive oil on them. And it depends the type of spray. You can drizzle olive oil and mix them in the bowl with olive oil, but because I've got a spray, I'm just going to spray just like that. And I'm going to put both of those trays into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for 15 minutes. And after 15 minutes I'm going to take both of them out of the oven and turn the oven down to 160 degrees Celsius, that's 140 Celsius with a fan, 325 Fahrenheit I think, and that will be ready to take the pastry again. So I'll come back after 15 minutes when I have baked the pastry and the vegetables for 15 minutes. So I baked the pastry and the vegetables for 15 minutes and I've taken them out of the oven, and I've reduced the oven to 160 degrees Celsius, 140 Celsius with a fan, 325 Fahrenheit. And this is what the pastry looks like. And what I'm going to do, I've actually just run my knife back around my lines that I made in the pastry, and inside the pastry I'm going to press it down like that. And then I'm going to put that back into the oven to bake for another 20 minutes. That's going to crisp the pastry up quite nicely. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend my foil over just to cover the edges. And I'm doing this because I don't want the edges to brown any more than they are at the moment, because we're going to bake it for longer with the vegetables in later. So I'm going to put that into the oven and bake it for 20 minutes. Then I'll take it out of the oven and come back and we'll assemble the rest of the tart. So my pastry has baked for another 20 to 25 minutes at that lower temperature. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my Gruyere cheese and just sprinkle it on the bottom within the framework of the lines that I drew. just like that. And then I'm going to cover that with the vegetables. And I've adjusted my temperature of the oven. I've put it back up to 200 degrees Celsius. That's 180 Celsius with a fan, 390 Fahrenheit. And I'm just putting these vegetables on haphazardly really, but keeping them within the border that I created. And I think that's enough, to be honest. So then I'm going to take my Greek style cheese and I'm going to drop that on. I've done that fairly randomly. And then I've halved some cherry tomatoes and I'm going to put those on as well. And this cheese is quite salty, but I'll put a little bit of salt on and some pepper, and that's a matter of taste basically. So just a little bit of salt can go on, and then a little bit of pepper as well. And I'm going to put that back into the oven and I'm going to bake it for another 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes I'll take it out of the oven and I'll come back and show you what it looks like and I'll have a taste of it. So I baked the vegetable and cheese puff pastry tart for a further 20 minutes. Then I took it out of the oven and I've now cut a piece of it off. So this is what it looks like once it's been baked, and the cheese has softened and begun to turn a sort of golden browny type colour. So I've cut some off, and I just I can pick a piece up like this and have a taste. Very, very good. The vegetables are beautifully sweet and cooked, and I get the crispness of the pastry on the base and around the edges, and then I get the taste of the cheese as well and those herbs and garlic. So this is very good indeed. It takes a bit of time and it's a little bit fiddly, but it makes a very good lunch, I would think, and you can serve it with a side salad, something like that. So that's going to be it for this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.